Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we're going to be reviewing the UTS 15 shotgun. Now this certainly is one of the more interesting shotguns in the game. I can't believe it's taken me so long to get around to reviewing it. But what's so cool about this gun is it's a pump action shotgun, so it's got a very good, powerful one-shot kill potential. But it also has 15 rounds available before you actually need to reload. Hence the name, the UTS 15. Now the shotgun was developed in Turkey. It has two 7-round magazine tubes side by side, which is why they're able to fit so many shells in this shotgun and still maintain a decently short length. It's a bullpup design, so shells are loaded on the back, and as you can see, the reload animation, you're alternating side by side, one for each of the magazine tubes there. I mean, personally, I would just be loading all the shells into one side and then switch over and load them into the other, instead of doing this weird alternating thing. One cool thing about the UTS 15 in real life is that you can load different kinds of ammunition into each of the magazine tubes and then just switch between the magazine tubes depending on what kind of shot you want. So you could put buckshot in one, put slugs in the other, put birdshot in one, put flechette rounds in one of the tubes. This would be such a cool feature to add into Battlefield 4, as having a large variety of shotgun shells in this game is very cool, but you can't always anticipate which ones you need. So if you can have 7 rounds of, say, buckshot in the left tube and 7 rounds of slug rounds in the right tube, that would be a very cool thing to quickly switch between, say if you have a target at long range or a target at close range. And now that I'm actually thinking about it, the reload animation on this doesn't make any sense at all, because generally speaking, when shooting this shotgun, you're going to be going through one of the tubes first and then switching over to the other tube. So why would you alternate sides when reloading? The only way that reload animation would make sense is that if you took one shot and then hit the little switch on the back of the shotgun to switch it to the other tube, take one shot, then switch it back over, which would make the pump action sequence much longer, and that's not actually incorporated into the animation. It would also just be a really weird way to run the gun. So I'm not gonna like hound dice on this because they got tons of guns in this game, but it would be interesting to try and fix up the reload animation on this a little bit, or make it a little bit more accurate to the real life process. Now let's pop up some Simthic stats here and see what's going on with the UTS 15. It's got a 99 round per minute rate of fire, which makes it slightly slower than your average pump action, which would be the 870 or the Spaz 12. Those both shoot at 109 rounds per minute, so this is 10 rounds per minute slower rate of fire. Not a huge issue as long as you're killing somebody in one shot, but if you got to do that 2-shot takedown or even more, it's going to take you a little bit longer. It fires 10 pellets per shot, both with buckshot and flechette, so that's 1 less pellet than the Spaz 12 and 2 less pellets than the 870. With an 18 damage maximum and a 16 damage minimum, you have the potential of doing 180 damage to a target. And now that buckshot doesn't have the massive reduction with the defensive perk, you can actually get some good damage in close quarters, so I do recommend running with buckshot. Flechette's fine too. Honestly, you're not going to notice a huge difference between the two, other than flechette's a little bit more effective at range and a little bit less effective in close quarters. And as we move along to the reload timing, you'll see that we have a 0.8 second reload per shell. This is actually the longest per shell reload out of any shotgun out there. So not counting magazine reloads, each shell is just crazy long. To give you a reference, the 870 is 0.7 seconds, the Spaz 12 is 0.67 seconds. So you're only getting faster and faster reloads per any other shotgun. So having 15 rounds is great, but you're going to be spending a lot of time in the reload process. Fortunately, you can just interrupt that process with some good old shotgun hipfire and further engage your enemies from there. But in action-packed sequences or areas of the game, you're probably not going to have a full magazine, as you'll just be in the reload process, see bad guys, and have to engage before you top off your shotgun. As far as shotgun recoil goes, you don't really need to pay much attention to it. It's kind of like bolt action sniper rifles. It's going to kick back pretty hard. You might lose your target, have to reacquire, depending on which sniper rifle you're using. No, it's not going to make a huge difference overall. Faster firing shotguns, you might want to pay attention to the recoil, but this is a pump action, slow rate of fire. Recoil's not really going to affect its performance. Now, because it is a bullpup design, DICE has chosen to give this shotgun better hipfire accuracy, so while shooting from the hip, you should be closer to the center marker on your circle there. I gotta say though, especially with Battlefield 4's current netcode, it is really hard to to try and hip fire people with any shotgun in the game. You're going to be taking a lot of shots that look like they're directly on target, and you're not going to get a single hit marker, and that's just unfortunately the state of the game right now. So we could delve into hip fire accuracies with pump actions, but it's not really going to matter. It ultimately comes down to netcode. But the good side of this is that based on what I've seen from CTE, it looks like we might be getting some good netcode improvements that could address this issue. Now, I always find it interesting to research the real-life counterparts of guns in games, and I've actually seen the UTS 15 even before it came out in Battlefield 4 being reviewed up against some other really interesting bullpup shotguns. Now, the UTS 15, based on reviews that I've seen, has some racking issues. I've seen multiple reviews of people just not being able to consistently rack shells, having lots of jam issues, that sort of thing. There is a very cool competitor against the UTS 15 from Keltec. It's called the KSG. It's a slightly smaller shotgun. It looks really cool, really slick. It can hold a lot of shells just like the UTS 15. And what's cool about it is that Battlefield already has a Keltec gun in this game. It's called the RFB. It's that DMR that most people get at the start of the game. It's not a bad DMR. It's not the best one out there, but it's a very interesting looking gun, just as the KSG is. And I'm hoping that DICE puts the KSG into one of the final expansions coming out for this game, or at least considers it for some future games, because frankly there's a lot of cool, really high-tech guns out there that still haven't made it into Battlefield, and I would love to see some of these. The Chris Vector is something that I know a lot of people have wanted to see in a Battlefield game, and the Keltec KSG would just be such a cool shotgun to have in-game, and it would directly compete with the UTS 15 in a lot of ways. Now, the attachments that you put on a shotgun can actually make a pretty big difference on how it performs. Personally, I like to use a full choke on most of my shotguns to try and get the best range out of any of the scattershot shells that I'm using. Tighter groupings means that if your accuracy is good, you have a higher chance of getting that one-shot kill potential, and it seems to not really affect my hipfire too much. And if you're really concerned about your hipfire accuracy, you can always put a laser sight on here. Again, this is not going to further reduce the size of your grouping, it's just going to make it shoot on target more frequently. As for optics, I usually like to use iron sights with something like an 870 or Spaz 12 just because it looks cool, and iron sights actually work pretty decently on shotguns. The UTS 15 looks so futuristic and high-tech that I figured a red dot sight on here wouldn't look out of place. And for some reason, DICE has given some of the shotguns in the game the ability to equip a foregrip. You can't do it on the UTS 15. In fact, it seems to be mostly for semi-auto shotguns, shotguns that shoot faster, because they don't have the greatest aiming accuracy while on the move. In fact, the UTS 15 has great aiming accuracy while running around, so you don't really need the foregrip on there. But if you are running a semi-auto shotgun, then I would recommend using something like an ergo grip to help improve your movement accuracy, because moving around, dodging, back and forth, that sort of thing is really crucial to staying alive with a shotgun. Lots of quick peeking, lots of moving around. This isn't a slow moving class. It's not something that you're going to want to slowly approach people. You're going to want to be moving fast. That's really where your benefit comes in. So overall, I really like the UTS 15 for pubbing. It's great for dealing with a lot of threats. You don't ever feel like you're going to be running out of ammo as long as you remember to hit that reload key whenever possible. If I was going into a tactical match, say I was only going up against a squad of guys, I might actually use something more like the Spaz 12 or the 870, because it's going to be better for dealing with smaller numbers of targets. But as far as going up against a huge server, a huge population of enemies, the UTS 15 is going to be awesome. So that wraps it up for my review on the UTS 15. Give it a try if you haven't yet. Make sure you pick some good close quarter maps with lots of enemies. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.